Pardon the voice. I've got some problems right now. Got a cold. Anyway, working on a 2009 Ford Focus. We had a AC leak. Came out to be the evaporator core. By the way, we're working in the under construction garage right now. It's coming along. But you see this thing is greasy. You can see a little bit of that refrigerant dye on there. This was definitely our problem. Getting this dash out, a little bit tricky. And I just had to figure it out as I went. And so I'm going to be doing a video on that. It's going to be recorded in reverse order though, and I'll try to edit it back into the right order for removal. Because there's no way I was making a video of me fumbling around trying to get that thing out of there. So let's get into it. All right, here we are back at the beginning. This feels a little weird. It's the end of the job for me, beginning of the job for you, but we're going to start under the hood. First off, of course, disconnect negative battery terminal. You're going to want to recover the refrigerant before you open up any of the AC stuff. High side port is right here. That's a funny spot for it. And then low side port is easy. It's right over here. Unbolt these two right here. That'll give you a little more freedom to move those AC lines once it comes time to disconnect it from the expansion valve and heater core over there. You can drain coolant if you like, or you can simply, if you want to save the coolant in there, you can use a clamp like this to clamp off those heater hoses. That's a little handy there. So, battery disconnected, AC lines freed up a little bit by loosening those bolts. Do what you're going to do with the coolant. It's also a good idea to gently pop this guy off here, and these are just kind of, they look like rivets, but they're really just little push tabs. They just pop out, pop in, no big deal there. And taking off that heat shield will just give you a little bit extra room. Then you want to block the wheels, because we are going to be messing with the, we're going to be freeing up the gear shifter. We're going to be moving that. We're going to be messing with the parking brake. Don't rely on any of that stuff to keep the vehicle stationary. Make sure that it's going to stay put no matter what you're doing with this stuff, whether it goes into neutral, whether the parking brake's off, because you might be fiddling with that as you take the center console out. First step inside of here is just going to be pulling off this piece right in here. That just pops off, no fasteners or anything, and then we're going to go from there. All right, next we have 4 8mm bolts holding this plate underneath the steering wheel. And we're also going to remove the clamshell around the steering column itself. And get out your 5.5mm socket and reach up in there. Take those screws out, and then it'll pop apart. You'll have to fool with the steering wheel angle adjustment thing there to get this all slid out there. But yeah, take off the plate, take off the clamshell. You don't have to remove the hood release handle from this plate. Just let the whole thing just come down and kind of hang out of the way there. All right, next thing we're going to do is begin to drop the steering wheel. We're going to drop it halfway just to make some of these connectors and the tabs holding them a little bit easier to work with. So underneath here, I'm going to loosen 2 13mm nuts, loosen but not remove. Remove a T45 Torx bolt, and then one more 13mm nut up there will also be removed. And that'll drop the steering down a little bit, and we can get to those connectors a little bit easier. You can disconnect them here, but you can see more of what all is going on once you have it dropped a little bit. All right, after removing those front 2 fasteners for the steering column and loosening the ones towards the back there, then you want to undo all these connectors, every one of them. So we got a few on this side. You also want to pull these little pins out that are holding the harness in place. So you've got 1, 2, what else do we have? 3, and then down underneath it and around we have 4, five connectors there. I think that's all of them. And like I said, remove that guy there, or it's going to snag, as well as this one and this one right here, just to make sure you don't hang up on those and pull on that harness once you drop the steering wheel all the way. Okay, next you're going to pull back this weather stripping a little bit, and we're going to start taking off some of this trim here. There's no fasteners except for on each side on the kick panels. There are two little push pin things in there. You can kind of pry those out and take those out before just reefing on it. Other than that, this comes off, no fasteners. This comes off, no fasteners. You probably want to pop this guy up a little bit before you pop that one out. And same thing, exact same thing on the other side, except there's no trunk release. There's a trunk release on this side, and you'll have to disconnect that once you pull that off. Okay, next thing will be to remove this center console here, and there are no fasteners. It just pulls up. There is a connector underneath here. You can pop off this cover here and get to it right there, or you can wait until you have the whole this whole silver part popped off, and then you'll be able to disconnect that connector while it's kind of sitting halfway up. You may need to move the shifter while you're taking this part out. In fact, you'll almost certainly have to. In order to do that, there's that little thing right there. It might have a little cover on it. You just pick it off with a pick or a screwdriver or something like that, and then you just take a pocket screwdriver or something similar, and you press down on there, and that releases, if you do it right. There, that releases your shift interlock. And again, make sure your wheels are chocked so that you don't end up rolling this thing. All right, but yeah, that pops out with no fasteners or anything. That's the one thing that you have to do about that, is to move that shifter. You might have to play with the park and brake a little bit, but that's about it there. Okay, next we will be removing the glove box. It'll just unlatch there, and then on the bottom it's connected with 3 7mm bolts. We'll also do the base for the center console. There is a push pin in the front there. Then underneath that cover is a bolt, 7mm. And then in the back seats, we've got, down on the very bottom, back there, it's a little hidden, but there's a 7mm bolt right in there, and mirrored on the other side, just the same thing. Some similar in the front, underneath that little cover there, and then we have another push pin up front there, and then there are bolts back in. Make sure that I'm showing that to you. Yep, back right in there and in there. Also 7mm. And if you'll notice, I got these boards right here. Like I said in the beginning, putting this back together right now, kind of going backwards. But yeah, if you've already kind of made it this far and you've accidentally torn these, then like I did, and it just kind of popped off and came free of those tabs right there, I've just got a little bit of silicone set on there just to fix that. So those will be together again, and that's what these boards are, just to hold it in place there. So yeah. Oh, silly independent mechanics doing stupid stuff. Alright, next we'll go under the driver's side of the dash. We got a whole bunch of connectors in here to yank out. That's kind of hard to see them. A little bit low light right now. But anyway, up in there, bunch of connectors to yank out. These ones, I believe, as well. Safe just to yank them out. By now, battery's disconnected. Anything you pull out is fine to pull out. You don't have to remove the OBD2 port. You have these brackets right here, 1, 2, 3, 10mm silver bolts, just like the ones that will be in the sides here a little bit later. And you have another bracket over on this side. It's just a mirror image of the other one. You have this Y pipe for the HVAC that will be coming out, as well as the shifter assembly. And this, the shift cable, it has little tabs on the back. You squeeze them and pull up, then that will loosen that up out of there. It just snaps back in when you're done. For disconnecting the cable from the shift lever here, it's just gonna pull and pop off. So you just have to, it's hard to see, but you just have to reach up in there and just pull it off and it'll snap off. Connector right here. This shifter thing is held on by 4 10mm nuts all around there. And then that will come on out of there. You don't have to disconnect the airbag module, just leave that be. And then the radio also does not need to come out. I took it out when I did this job, but that ended up being unnecessary. So, and I think, let's see, I think that is it for this step. All right, last things holding in the dash are going to be, well, first of all, you want to look at these grounds down here, disconnect those. Same thing on the other side. We have to disconnect those connectors down there too, going into the kind of wall behind the kick panel. You have another connector right there behind the glove box where we took that out. And then you have on the side these 3 silver 10mm bolts. There's another bolt behind here going straight in that way. That's a little tricky to get to. It's a little deep in there. And then on this side, same deal. Those 3 silver 10mm bolts. And then right up in the middle, and on this side you don't have one going through the side of it sideways. It's just those 3. And then up here in that little thing right there, you have an 8mm bolt, and that one's about the trickiest one to get to. And after that, and once you've disconnected all those other connectors and everything, then this whole thing should just rock on out of here. And then we'll be getting to the HVAC box. All right, we're almost there. The HVAC box is exposed. We have a 13mm nut up in here, which will loosen down that way. It's basically holding the box upwards. We have a 2 11mm nuts. One is down here underneath where these heater hoses go. Another 11mm nut right there that hold it to the firewall. And then we have one more 13mm right up there. Same deal as on the other side. Also, the heater hoses will be disconnected from the bottom side. Down there. So that's where they plug in. The clamps are a little bit of a pain on these. They fought me quite a bit, so good luck with that. I have no advice for you, just that it's a little difficult. Then, of course, the AC lines tucked way up to there, and the expansion valve with it too. I went ahead and took off, when I was doing this, I took off the expansion valve from here rather than trying to pull it through the whole thing, and that was very easy. This, I believe, 13mm nut right there holding the lines to the expansion valve, and then you have 2 4mm Allen head bolts in the expansion valve holding it to the evaporator core. So get all those loosened, and then you'll be ready to take out the HVAC box. All right, once you have the HVAC box out of the vehicle, then go ahead and get a T20 Torx bit driver, screw gun, whatever it is you want to use. And then the goal here, there's a bunch of screws to go through and look at. But the goal here is going to be to separate. You see the seam is right here. It goes down like that. It's held in with screws on most of it. And then down here is these two little kind of rocker clips. I don't know what you would call that, but this whole thing, once the screws are gone, this whole thing is going to kind of rock and pull off like that. You might have to disconnect a few things just to give you a little bit more room. The heater core itself is covered with a cover right here. You have two screws under this foam right there. You can go ahead and take that foam off. A couple screws over there. And then that seam where this is going to crack in half continues in this little cubby right there. So you've got, let's see, I don't think that screw has to come off, but that screw does, as well as that screw. Right there, that guy. And then you'll pull this whole thing in half, and then you'll be able to remove the evaporator and heater core. Okay, and once you have the heater box taken apart, then the evaporator core, last thing will be two screws in the top of here, and then that will free up the pipes, and then the whole thing just kind of rocks and slides out, and then the new one in. This is the new one in already, and the heater core itself. Ooh, man, I like Four Seasons stuff in general, the brand aftermarket. Don't get their heater core. These clamps, oh, those were a pain to get on there. This is the new one that's in already. It just slides into there. A lot of heater cores, the new ones, they don't include the pipes. So the pipes, you clean up the old ones, transfer them over, and then clamp them in with whatever style they use. Old heater core used these, which were nice and convenient and worked well. New one used these little guys, and it was hard to make them fit there, especially because you kind of have to hold the pipe with one hand while you're fooling with the clamp with another. Find a different brand with a different style of holding these pipes to that core. Not the Four Seasons this time. Swing and a miss for them. And then after that, everything is going to be the reverse of removal. So hope that was helpful. You all have a good one. By the way, if you're going to be doing the dryer, which is generally a good idea when the AC system has been leaking or it's going to be sitting open for a decent amount of time, like when you're doing the evaporator core, it's pretty easy too. This grill pops off. You've got a couple of push pins that go in the top through there. Just pry them out. Then this clips in at the bottom with these little clips there. They'll just sit right in there. You reach in with a little tab or something and pop those up, and then that whole thing will just slide off. Then this little guy right here is just held on by, at the top there, by just a couple little push tabs. And it slides out of the way. And then as for the dryer itself, it is one bolt at the bottom. So you will remove a few 7mm screws that are holding this this little splash pan up, and then you have your bolt right there. So take that bolt out, and then the dryer comes up and out through the top and just kind of wiggles out of there. There are 4 O-rings in there that you will need to replace once it's out. They're a little tricky to get to, but it's nothing too crazy. We can get the new one in, and do this at the very end of the job, because already with this dryer being hooked up to this system that is not under vacuum and doesn't have refrigerant in it, it's already starting to absorb moisture. And once they get saturated, they're no good anymore. So just to maximize the life of this new part, do this at the very end of the job. Don't have it, sitting with an open AC system overnight. because that's just going to shorten its lifespan. So we're just about to pull vacuum on here, and hopefully we've got no leaks, and then it'll be full of refrigerant, and this won't be filling up with moisture, and hopefully we'll be good to go for a long, long time. So that is it. Y'all have a good one.